Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the People on the Go Lunch and Learn webinar. My name is Melissa, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. Before we start, let's check and make sure that you can see the screen and hear me. If you can type a brief note in the questions panel. Oh, thank you so much. I see that there. Thank you, Robert. By the way, this is the same questions panel that we'll use for questions later. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We also have Anna Lee, Marketing Manager at MindJet, with us today, and she'll be answering questions during the presentation. So if anything comes up, she's there to answer your questions today. If you're having technical difficulties, the number there is right there on the screen, 1-800-263-6317. Today's webinar is how to use visual project management for greater productivity. And I have with me Andy Wibbles, who I'll be introducing in just a moment. A quick background about why we have these sessions, especially for those who are with us for the first time. We have these sessions because our focus at People on the Go is productivity in the workplace, and the topics that you see on the screen are the topics that we cover. We have them available in a variety of formats, including the webinar format, just like today's session. These webinars are offered on a monthly basis, and you can check them out on the website. We also have a membership program that makes these webinars very easy to take advantage of, and you can see the options there. And we have many resources available, like the blog, Facebook, LinkedIn groups, and you can also follow our founder, Pierre Khawand, on Twitter. And so now let's dive into today's topic. I'm going to introduce our speaker, Andy Wibbles. Andy Wibbles is Director of Solutions and Partner Marketing at MindJet, a collaborative tools and work management software company based in San Francisco. He's the author of Blog Wild, a guide for small business blogging, and contributing author to Business, the Ultimate Resource. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Andy. This transition will take just a moment.
Alrighty, can folks see my screen, I think, Melissa?
Yes, I can see it just fine over here.
Excellent.
Yes.
Alrighty, thank you everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today for today's session. Over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to take you through a little bit about how we look at project management and the challenges that project teams face, and why at MindJet we really feel like a visual approach is the way to attack those particular challenges. So we'll be looking at the top 3 project management challenges for teams. We'll be looking at the ways that the products we have here at MindJet help teams solve those problems, and then we'll have some Q&A towards the end. So first off, when we talk about project management, I know a lot of folks think about projects as these big, massive, unwieldy things that take months or years. Boeing is one of our clients, and they may have a project that's 40 years long, where it's from the design and conception of an aircraft all the way to it being retired in commercial fleets. So some projects, yes, are these decades-long marathon sagas where the project may be older than the people that are actually working on it at the time. But at MindJet, we also mean the day-to-day projects, the stuff that we all have to get done every day. The way that I look at it is, if you can't get it done by yourself in one day, it's probably a project. So it involves other people that may be inside your company, outside the company, cross-department, all over. Common challenges that these teams, no matter their size, are facing. And so when we talk about projects, it's the size, it's about who it is and who's doing the things, and of course the need to report progress at all times, because with projects, that's always this ongoing need, is to report progress to the stakeholders and the executive team and whoever else is trying to keep track of a project. So those 3 challenges that we find in our millions of customers we work with in MindJet, the first one is that teams struggle to flesh out ideas and agree on the priorities, the definition, the scope, the action items, the schedules, all the pieces that you should theoretically agree upon before you even start the project. And this is exacerbated when you have people in multiple locations. So again, it's the agreement, it's the scope, and once you have different time zones and offices and networks inside the company, cross-department, outside the company, there's so many people it takes to get anything done these days because we're all specialists. And once you blend in your vendors and people that might not be in your own department, that's a big challenge for teams. And like we said, it's when things go virtual and you have these distributed work groups, that adds even more complications. So the first project management challenge was fleshing out the ideas. That's all about the scope and the project definition and all the things you should do before you even start working on a project. The second challenge is having a consistent way to track activities and know who's doing what and keeping that all in sync. So you want to know what's actually happening, not just what you plan to have happen, but the plan as it is in action. I know a lot of us that use project management tools will make the project plan what we wished was happening right now or what we think should be happening, but you need a way to know exactly what's happening across the team, across the project, so things are done correctly, they're done on time, you don't have to go back and waste resources and time fixing things. And so you want to make sure things are getting done, because if you don't, they don't get done, they may get done late. And we find that emailing back and forth and doing the whole, well, I sent this, it's done, I'll ping you through email, just makes things worse because you're getting people stuck in your inbox. You can't figure out what's going on and who's in charge of what. And then you have somebody flips out and gives you a high priority email, and probably while you're sleeping you wake up and there's this big massive email in your inbox because people don't know what's going on and what's happening. And these things should be getting done because the milestones should be in the plan and they should be visible to everyone. So that's the second project management challenge, is having a way to track activities and to keep all of those in sync across the team, and including the people that are responsible for the project, the stakeholders, the executive team, anybody that needs to know that update so they all know what's happening at any given time. The third project management challenge is people waste time trying to find the information they need to get their work done. How often each week does somebody say, did you get the file? I sent it to you in your email. Oh, here, wait, I'll send it again. So if there's one place to go to find stuff, you will save a lot more time across your team because you won't always be looking for this information for your project. And projects require a lot of information. White papers, documents, PDFs, spreadsheets, research reports, all the stuff that goes into the project is this files and information, but there's a lot of stuff that comes out of a project as well. So you need to be able to find the right information at the right time to get the work done. So those are the three main challenges. Again, was the project definition, tracking what's actually happening, and keeping all the information together that a project requires. So for that first challenge, which was fleshing out ideas and knowing who's doing what when, at MindJet, and when I talk about MindJet, I'm going to be talking about our products here, including My Manager, which is the desktop software, as well as Project Director, which is a web-based app for project teams. So when we're talking about the whole idea of fleshing out ideas and project definition and scope and all that mess, we use what we call the virtual whiteboard. So a lot of teams you'll find have a whiteboard in the office. They may be putting index cards on it or post-it notes, writing stuff, and then writing do not erase. And the problem with that is if you've got a distributed work group, not everybody can see what's on that whiteboard. So it's not always up to date. Not everybody can see it, especially if you have a group of folks in different time zones or across the campus that you're on in your workplace. They can't just go in and see what the heck is going on. So with MindJet, we have a way that you can have a visual scope and priorities in a mind map. So the projects are laid out visually. So instead of having your definition document and then your requirements document and then those kind of go away and then you suddenly barrel into a task list, all of these things are put in together so you can see this map of all the information attached to a project. So this visual canvas can take you from the idea of your project, the brainstorming, the ideation, figuring out what you're going to do, to the planning, all the way to the completion. And that, we feel, is a very key component of project teams and managing a project team, even if you're not the project manager. A lot of what we're talking about today is for teams that don't have a dedicated PM. And so that's why at MindJet, we feel like we're making project management software for everyone on your team. So if you don't have a PM, we're all kind of in charge of keeping the project updated and knowing who's doing what when. So having this visual layout is, again, an intuitive way to see how the project is put together, both from the definition, the requirements, and the goals. You can see on the screen there, you could have a way to illustrate the issues and risks, and then go into the requirements and deliverables, and then you can talk about the actual project plan. So all the pieces and the tasks and the to-do items are also included in that. So it's one large overview that you can then click in to see the drill down and the detail in each of those pieces. And also, along with this virtual whiteboard idea, is since this is an online web app, it's a tool used through your browser, everybody can see this no matter where they are. They can all edit it from where they are, and they can even edit in real time. So if you have a team that's brainstorming here in San Francisco, and your other team is in London, we can all work on the same map at the same time, the same virtual whiteboard, and see the updates happening in real time between the two groups, even though we're on opposite sides of the world. And again, this helps keep those conflicts visible. So as you're laying out the project visually, you can't really hide a whole lot of stuff in it. You have to illustrate where the conflicts are, know where the scope is and the requirements, and make those explicit. So there's not a lot you can't really dance around and have a shady project planning. This approach really requires you to define things clearly so everybody can see the project from beginning to completion. And then that second challenge we talked about was tracking what's actually happening in the project. So knowing who's doing what when it's due, why is it not done, is it late, do we need more resources, do we need more money? The whole project in motion challenge, and keeping everybody in sync so we all know what's happening when and when things are due. And again, trying to keep all of that mess out of your inbox. So with MindJet and Project Director, we have what we call social task management, which is a way to have the tasks that are, again, online through a web app, through a virtual experience that everybody can add the tasks that they need to do. They can update the progress. They can assign them or follow them or leave comments on them, add attachments to them if you're doing a revision of a document. There's a lot of options when you move to this online social task management approach. And again, for us, it also works not just through the browser, but we have mobile devices. So if you're using your iOS or your Android device, you can check in on your project and report progress from off-site or from the field. If you're using SharePoint, we have an integration with Microsoft SharePoint. So if you want to keep all of this stuff behind your firewall, you can also do that as well. But the point here is that you want to be able to synchronize the tasks and the updates so you spend less time figuring out who's doing what and what the progress and status is, and more time actually doing the work of the project. So you can quickly identify the bottlenecks before they impact your timeline. And every milestone and deadline is in context, so it's not just a list by itself. Again, you can see it inside the virtual whiteboard, inside the structure of the project, as well as the detail of who's doing it, when is it due, what are the attachments for it, the documents, the files, the progress, all of that stuff is there as well. And again, it's synchronized all the time in real time, so you always know the status and the health of your project. The third challenge we talked about was files and information and content and documents and PDFs and all that mess of stuff that goes into a project. And a lot of people will put this into a network drive or store it in their inbox, which is kind of dangerous, but you want to be sure that you have this project-centric file management. So with Project Director, which is our web-based product again, we have these project folders that let you keep all the information of a project in one place. Everyone on the team can access, download, share, revise documents and files quickly without having to root around in their inbox or check their other email or check their iPhone, check all these different places where a file could be. Instead, they are all in one place. And part of that integration for us is that we can also bring in files from other file cloud storage systems you may already be using, like Box, Dropbox, Microsoft SkyDrive, or Google Drive. And this allows you to attach those pieces of information to the tasks and to that virtual whiteboard so everybody can find the files they need to quickly and easily. And if they're giving feedback, give the feedback, have a conversation around it, and always have the latest version of the latest documents. And an example of a customer that's doing this in action with MindJet is EDC, which is Educational Development Center Incorporated. They've got about 1,600 employees all over the world, half in the US, half elsewhere. And they're a nonprofit for educational consulting. And they have hundreds of projects at any given time. And they're using virtual teams with MindJet to talk to a school board in Swaziland, an institution in Australia, teachers in the US, to share best practices for education for students of all ages. And so they're using MindJet to share that information across all these different diverse teams and locations all in one place. That way they can all know what's going on at any given time and share the knowledge and the tasks and the status of the project all the time. And so what that all means in terms of like boiling it all down, if I get my next slide to show, there we go, is enabling collaborative work. So you have the virtual whiteboard, you have the task sync, you have the file sharing, and it all comes together so you can brainstorm, organize, plan, and execute. And again, we operate across multiple platforms: desktop, mobile, web, and then on-premise, which is our SharePoint integration. So I want to take you through a demo next to show you how this works in our product called MindJet Project Director. So let me get the demo started. I'll be right back. All right, so what you're looking at now is the main interface for MindJet Project Director. It's pretty straightforward and intuitive. At the top, you've got a couple tabs: Projects, which is where you can access all the projects in your Project Director account; Tasks, which is where you can see the updates to all the tasks of your projects or a specific one; Library, which is where files are kept, so you can always access the latest version of any file that you're working on in your project; and then Contacts, which is where you manage and add and remove team members to your different project teams. So what I want to show off first is how you start a new project inside Project Director, because a lot of times that's a big challenge for folks. They don't know where to go with a new project, how to start, what do I need first, and Project Director helps you through that process very quickly. So as you can probably see, I just click on where it says New Project. So this is our new project quick start experience. So I just choose a name for my project and click Next. I can add guests by their email address, so we'll do John Smith at company.com, or I can add folks that are already in this particular MindJet account. So I'll add Anna because she's sitting next to me and she loves getting email. And again, I have different permission sets as well. I can say I want these people to be only read-only access. They can just read the project plan and the tasks and the files, or I want them to be real full team members that can edit files and add different other pieces as well. So let me put that together. There. And on the next screen is where you choose the template for your project map. So again, with our approach here at MindJet, we feel like the visual approach is the best way to go. So that way you have an intuitive visual way to show the project, the requirements, the definition, the goals, the objectives, the updates, the reports, the risks, and of course the project plan, all in one view that you can see the overview and the context, and then the drill down to the detail. So for this example, let's say that I'm doing a sales offsite. We're going to have our Q3 sales offsite to plan for the coming quarter. So I'm going to choose project plan for my template I'm going to start with for this particular project. So I click Next. And of course, I click too fast. So I have to go back. Give me 2 seconds, folks. Go. All right, back to where I was. Okay, So after you select the people you want in the project, you can then upload files. Most projects have a certain collection of files that you have starting out of the gate, and it's best you just get those inside that project workspace as soon as you can. So I click on Upload Now, and I can either bring in files from my machine, from my laptop or desktop that I'm sitting at right now, or I can bring them in from my Box account, my Dropbox account, Microsoft SkyDrive, or Google Drive. So in this case, I'm going to bring them in from my own hard drive. So let me go to my Finder here, and we'll choose a few files. Let's see, just grab a whole bunch and drop those right there. And those get uploaded immediately into the Project Director workspace. And there we go. Those are now done. So I can click Next. So my project has now been set up. And on the next screen, I can choose, do I want to start working on the map for the project, the visual project plan? Do I want to start adding tasks to a task list? I work with the files, add new files, take ones down, remove them, revise them, or add more team members to my project. So I'm going to start with working on the map. So what you'll see on the left side now, I have this project that I just created, Team Chattanooga. And there's my project plan right down here. That's from that template that I just chose. So I'm going to open that up. And remember, we're going to make a plan for a offsite for sales. Let's just do some quick editing here. Let's say Q3 sales offsite. So we're planning an event, which a lot of folks do, no matter what department you're in. So using this visual approach, I have a whole lot of options to show, again, the context and the top-level view of a project, and also the drill down. So this is just basic project information. You can change these however you want. We could say, you know what, we want this to actually be requirements. You can make this template fit exactly what you're working on for your particular project. So let's go to Schedule, because I want to show you how you can use this approach to make a visual project plan and then make tasks that you can then assign to your team members. So under Schedule, let's open that up. We got Phase 1. Let's say Phase 1 is pre-event, before our offsite. So we need to do a few things like, let's see, decide on venue, and let's say let's also finalize catering agreement, because we got to eat at our event, and then finish setting up transportation, because people have to get to the event as well. So again, these are just a few tasks I'm adding to this visual project plan, and I could add a lot more. I could sort them by phase. This works with however your team is already working. So Project Director adapts to how your team works and exposes how that organization all fits together. So you can see again the overview, in context, and the drill down detail. So right now, this is just a project plan with a few tasks, but these aren't really tasks that I've made into something. But I can click on a task like finalize catering for our offsite, and let's say let's add some task info. So we're going to add a start date. Let's say we'll start that tomorrow, and we'll have an end date. We'll choose it by next Thursday. So you'll see as I add that information here, it updates here under the actual topic. So this is now a task, and I can say let's assign this to Anna. So she knows that it's her responsibility, and that puts it right there as well. And so this is a very simple way to do your project plan, but you probably want to have a way that you could upload the catering agreement, that you could have a conversation about this task as needed, that you could put progress in the task as it's being updated and worked on. And that's where the Tasks tab that was up here comes in. So I can take this particular task and this topic and make it into a real task and send it into the task system. So I click on Create Tasks, and it says, yeah, just the topic that I selected. I want to add it to an existing task list that has the same name in my project, which is Chattanooga. I click on Send, and that takes this topic and makes it into a task that then has a lot more features for this social task management that we were talking about earlier. So to look at that task in that context, I just click on this URL here, and that is right there. And of course, that's going to happen because it always happens when I do a demo. So let me do a different route, we'll go into the Tasks tab. And let's find our project. Should be at the bottom. There it is, Team Chattanooga. And so here's the task that we just created, finalize catering. So what you're seeing now is the Tasks tab. So we had projects, tasks, and we've made that topic of our visual project plan into a task that can be updated very easily. And so if I just click in to show the detail, you'll see I can have comments and a whole conversation about the task here. I can upload files. If I want to say, you know what, let's upload the catering agreement. Pretend that, let's say this is it. Let's say that this is our catering agreement right here. I can just upload a file just like that. And all the people that are following this task can see that update. So I can add, let's add Anna as a follower, so she's on board. I can add other people as well. And along with this, I can update the progress of the task. So we'll say, you know what, it's been started. So it's in motion. But I don't want to start until Tuesday. I'm going to San Diego. I want to start on Tuesday because I'm going to take a day off on Monday. So I'm going to say, let's make it the 16th. So I then make that update there. I can close this, and the update shows here again. But when I go back into the project plan, you'll also see that it's updating from there as well. So I go back into my project. There's my project plan right there. And drill down to the schedule. There we go, right there. And there is my updated project status. So again, I'm syncing between this visual overview project plan and the task detail. And similarly, I can go back in and say, you know what, I started the project, let's say I'm maybe 50% done. And that will then update on the task detail as well. So we're taking a virtual whiteboard, this mind map that we use at MindJet, and finding a way to express the project in visual terms from not just a bunch of tasks that you have to get done, but from this overall context of the project as it's in action, from idea to planning to execution to completion. So you're seeing all those pieces in one view. And again, this is something we've been working on for many years. This is a very intuitive view that project teams all over the world find very valuable in working on their projects. So other stuff to point out on Project Director, so under Library is where you would see all the files that are in our particular system. So I can go to Projects here, I click on Library, you would see all the files that are in this system. So I can move files around, I can update them, I can change them, I can add more people to my project with this button over here. I have a lot of options available to me. So again, this was a very brief walkthrough of how Project Director works and how it helps teams attack those top 3 challenges, which was the virtual whiteboard for keeping things in sync, the social task management, and finally, keeping all the information of a project in one place. So you're not always wrestling in your inbox trying to find the latest version of a document. So let me go back into PowerPoint and finish up. So we took you through a brief demo of how Project Director works and what it's all about and how it solves what we think are the top 3 project management challenges. And we'd like to get some Q&A from the folks on the call as well. But on the screen right now is a way that you can get started today with a trial of using MindJet Project Director. And let's open up for some Q&A.
Thank you so much, Andy. I'm going to switch over now to my slides, and then we'll get into the Q&A pretty soon. Folks, if you want to start asking some questions, now would be a great time, and we'll get to those in just a moment.
Andy, so I had a question.
Yes.
Can we manage the issues and keep track of them?
Yeah, what a lot of folks are using is they use the task as an issue, and so then the conversation of the task is kept inside that issue, that task. If you're using an external system like Jira or another ticketing system, you can also link to the ticket from inside the task. So it can work as its own task issue tracking, or if you have an existing system, you can integrate that as well.
Great. Thanks, Andy.
Excellent.
What are some of
Oh, go ahead.
What are some of the main differences between MindJet Project Director and products like Basecamp, and what are the advantages of Project Director?
We really feel like that this visual approach can take people from ideation to completion. With products like Basecamp and Productive and our other competitors, which are fantastic products, it usually gets stuck in this whole idea of a task list. So you're kind of doomed from the start because you just have these massive task lists that start up unwieldy because there's not much context in how it got to that point. So we really feel like starting with a tool that takes you from the planning and ideation to the actual project in action to the completion is the way to go, especially for project teams that are distributed all over the place, cross-functional, cross-department, cross-time zones. It's a great way to have an intuitive way for folks to see the status and health of a project.
Any other questions on your end, Anna?
I'm pulling these questions from the Q&A.
Okay, sure. Go right ahead. Sure, keep continuing with that. That's fine.
Okay, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in.
Yeah.
So another question we have is, can the mind map be updated automatically so that it can be displayed on a huge TV screen so everyone can see it in real time?
Yeah, it's similar to that co-editing we talked about earlier, where if you had the mind map open on a screen and somebody else was editing it from a different computer or different location, those edits will show up automatically. And the synchronization of the tasks is also automatic.
Awesome. How many guests can you have in a map at one time?
I think it's in the hundreds, so I don't think it's not a limit that will keep people down, because it's all going to the same. It's going to our central servers and then being fed back out to the client. So I think we've had co-editing, I think, of 20 people or 24 at one time. But of course, you probably want to have a handful of people doing the actual editing, because otherwise you'll have a lot of stuff blowing up on your screen and people fighting over editing rights.
Are projects public or can they be privately viewed?
These are all under a login, so when you invite people to a project, they can only see it if they are logged into the system. So you have the ability to add members, who are folks that can edit and view and upload and participate in discussions for a project, or just guests who can only view. So again, it's behind it's a private area just for your project and your project team.
Another question we have is, are we able to update the map in Project Director, but open and work with the file in Microsoft Project?
The file format in this case is the Mind Manager Mind Map format. What you can do is, if you have our desktop app, you can export a mind map, this visual whiteboard, into a Microsoft Project file. We've got some project teams that will have these massive projects that they will plan out in a tool like Microsoft Project, a much more robust tool for larger project plans, and then they'll take a piece of it and bring it into this visual context. So you can bring it in both in import and export in the Microsoft Project format.
Excellent. What about Gantt charts? Are they in Project Director or are they an add-in? Could you please address that?
Yeah, Gantt charts in this case are available through our desktop tool, which is MindJet Mind Manager. So the Gantt chart is not inside Project Director. I think a timeline Gantt chart view is on the horizon feature-wise, but I probably shouldn't give you any date on that because I don't know the dates. But we know that Gantt chart is a very popular view, and for now, if you were to bring that mind map into Mind Manager, you could create a Gantt chart.
Is there any support for Windows Phone and mobile app?
Currently, no. I will go re-bother the mobile guys to see what the status of that is, but I know right now we are not working on a Windows app. We've got Android and iOS right now.
Excellent. Are the tasks, can they be synced with Outlook?
They can if you're using our SharePoint integration, which is, again, the on-premise one. So you can either have the tasks as SharePoint tasks, as Outlook tasks, but if you probably want to have them synced to the task system inside Project Director itself. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of cooperation between those different systems. And with Project Director, it's not able to talk directly to your Microsoft Exchange server, so because that's usually behind our firewall. So you'll want to have your tasks either managed inside your Outlook instance, your SharePoint instance, or inside Microsoft Project Director itself.
Okay. Could you speak to the security level of Project Director? How secure is it?
Sure, we have a security data sheet that we can give folks, but we use industry standard SSL encryption. I don't know all the fancy abbreviations, but we have a whole document if you're interested in that.
Great. You mentioned SharePoint earlier. Does Project Director require a SharePoint server, or is it completely separate?
The integration is through our My Manager desktop product, so you can take a mind map and bring it into SharePoint and edit it, and then have folks edit it there and view it as well as connect that project plan, that visual map, into the SharePoint Tasks app as well.
Excellent. Does Project Director allow you to manage your resource usage?
That is something that is a bit more advanced that Project Director does not handle. We're mostly in the realm of who's doing what, not 0.5 of Anna's time for Tuesday is on this task, or 3 hours of Andy's time on Wednesday is that task. That's a bit more of an advanced feature. It's for much more advanced project teams.
All right. Can information be stored on local servers?
Not in this case, because Project Director is a web-based app. Everything is out there in the cloud. You can upload files from your local hard drive, your local systems and network drive, as well as from Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, and Microsoft SkyDrive. But for Project Director to work as a web app, all of that stuff needs to be out there on the web for folks to access it. You can always download the files if you want to keep a copy of them for later.
How about binding to other tools like Embarcadero, ER, Studio, Software Architect, Business Architect, their UML tools?
We don't have integrations with those right now. If you want, we can check on that, but I'm not sure what the integration roadmap is for the next 6 months.
Okay, and could you talk about the reporting functionality of Project Director?
Sure. The reporting functionality is very focused on getting reports to the right people at the right time. So you could say, I want to know all the tasks that completed in the last week or that were started in the last week, and then send an email report to different stakeholders or different team members for that purpose.
All right. So we noticed the Contacts tab. Does it show roles, etc., so that you know who to talk to about specific tasks and specific projects?
Not in this case, because it's just names of the people in the project. I think if you wanted to do that, you could probably put their role in their actual username. So it could be, Annalee, parentheses, manager, or director. So that way you would know which role goes to which.
Great idea. Does Project Director have the ability to integrate with other industry standard PM systems, such as Project Talk?
Not Project Talk, I know that one. But like I said, we can export into Microsoft Project with the My Manager format.
And are there any differences in interface or depending on your user role?
Yes. If you're a guest, you can't make new files or upload and download. You can only view stuff. But if you are a team member, a full-fledged team member, you can create maps, edit them, make tasks, update tasks, add and remove, and share files.
Excellent. How can you tell when a document's version changes, and how obvious is that?
What I would do is put the document inside of a task, so that way as the document updates, the new update is put inside the task. So you have the conversation about the document and the new updates all inside one place.
Great. If we want to integrate with SharePoint, then should we use My Manager instead of Project Director?
It's a bit of both, and I would say let's call the sales team because they know the full detail on how those integrations work. Usually with SharePoint, folks want to keep all of the projects inside their firewall, so you may want to be using My Manager, our desktop version, connecting to your SharePoint server. There's a bunch of different configurations, and we can help you figure that out.
Excellent. What features does Project Director have that might help a project manager follow up with team members who haven't finish the task that they're responsible for?
Sure. You can look at the view that shows you, first of all, there's an activity stream that shows you the current status of stuff. So if I upload a file or change the status, that all shows up in a sort of like a Facebook feed type activity stream. But when things are not getting done and things are overdue, you can email from within the app or export a list of all the stuff that's not done and then reach out to those folks individually as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your questions. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to type them in. Or if we missed any questions or you want more clarification, feel free.
Great, thank you so much.
And again, if folks are...
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, if folks are interested, again, if you want to know more about Project Director, you can go to our website, mindjet.com. You can grab a trial today and start using it immediately at mindjet.com/form. If you got questions, email our sales team at sales@mindjet.com.
Great. Thank you again, Andy, for your presentation, and thank you, Anna, for moderating the Q&A. If you still have more questions, as Anna said, please feel free to ask them, and also there's Andy's contact information there for you as well. Just a few reminders before we close out today. For those who joined us later in the session, please again feel free to visit our blog and join our Facebook and LinkedIn groups so you can stay updated on future events. And also you can follow our founder, Pierre Khawand, on Twitter. I wanted to tell you a little bit about a leadership survey that we're currently running. There's some excellent prizes that you can see, huge values there in terms of a leadership program that's coming up, a Kindle, and some books and more, and there's the link for you. You can also find it on our website, on our blog if you visit there. A few workshops I'd like to tell you about that are coming up that relate to this topic: effective meetings on August 1st, Microsoft Project Techniques on August 15th, SharePoint on August 22nd, and then project management in early fall. And you can find those on our website, people-onthego.com/webinars. Anna, do you see if we have any additional questions there?
Yeah, I just saw one trickle in. Do we have any training classes?
Yeah, we have a ton of training classes, both recorded videos that are on the site in our help section, as well as we offer consulting and training for folks depending on if you want on-site or customized templates. We have a ton of training available.
Excellent. If you guys have any more questions, we're standing by. Okay, we just had one last question come in. Are we also on Twitter, Andy?
Of course, everybody's on Twitter. It'll be twitter.com/mindjet. And we're on Facebook, of course. We're everywhere. So, you know, Mindjet everywhere. SlideShare, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, it's all there.
Good question. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for sticking around as we went a little bit over today. Andy, thank you so much for a great presentation. And thank you again, Anna. Just one.
Thank you, folks.
Oh, thank you. Just one more reminder. When you exit the webinar today, a feedback form will pop up, and we would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to give us your feedback. Thank you all again, and I'll hope you join us at a future Lunch and Learn or at a future webinar. Have a great day, and I'm going to sign off now. Goodbye.